Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm swatching I Just Want to Spank It Out of Him by Bee's Knees Lacquer. This polish is somewhat close to my previous video, which had Asterion's juice box, which is why I wore them together. I wanted to see them side by side. There are some differences. This one has more of an orangey red tone to the base color, and the particle size of this polish is larger. It also goes on a little more opaque and darker than the other one. Now, I did something this day that I don't normally do. I painted thick, to the point that I gave it my normal 10 minutes to dry down before adding top coat, and I completely smeared my thumbnail because it still hadn't dried. I think I just wasn't paying attention to how much polish I had on my brush, and I seemed to only do that with my thumb, so the rest of my nails were my normal painting. Luckily, I could carefully push the polish back into place when the top coat had had a minute or two to dry, so I don't think you will be able to tell I did that in the full hand shots. But if it is noticeable, at least you know why. In the first coat, you can see how dark the polish goes on. The reddish-orange tones are very apparent while I'm painting, but as soon as I go to the wiggle shot, it looks a lot darker even though I didn't change my lighting. The shimmer is really only going to show green here, but that's all right. I think the full hand shots will show the other shifts pretty well. I was looking for color references and found both Jasper and Sard minerals. Both are a pretty good representation of the base color of the polish. Overall, I think it is an orangey red with some strong brown tones. I'm going to say it's somewhere between a maroon and a brick red because I think those are pretty well-known color points. In that second coat, I wish I had stopped. I had painted much thinner on my other fingers, and so had needed a third coat to cover my ridges. I think the polish was done on my thumb in two, but for the sake of consistency, I did a third on camera. I don't think I needed it. The polish looked even to me. I'm going to say you can wear this in two, as long as you don't paint super thin. I know I talked about this in my previous video, but this too is a stainer. It stained my entire nail plate on every finger a slightly pinkish red color. There are also a couple of little brown swirls on my middle finger, but they're so faint. I can barely find them with my face next to my hand. For me, this isn't a big deal. I'm always wearing nail polish, so no one sees it, and the pink counteracts some of my yellowing. I'll post in my community tab some pictures of my bare nails. I've done another manicure since, and both hands are still pink, but less pink than they were. This type of staining will never stop me from wearing a polish. My third coat is pretty generous as well. As mentioned, I think in practice it was unnecessary. It didn't add to opacity or saturation. However, you are about to see my other nails with 3 coats. One thing that surprised me a lot regarding this polish was how much it reminded me of Come Out, also by Bee's Knees. They both have a very beautiful violet to blue to green large particle shimmer. The base for Come Out is more of a clear violet jelly. This polish has just a touch of crelly to it and has that murky brick reddish base. You would never mistake them for dupes, but I was surprised to see the similarities. It's a good comparison since Come Out sits very high on my favorite polishes ever list. I don't have a good picture of Come Out, so that will have to wait. For the sun shot, I didn't have the most intense light. However, You can see that violet to blue shift when I'm over at the left. It moves into a teal as I move away from the door. There are hints of the reddish base interacting with the purple shift and creating more of a red grape color. I see that briefly when I'm facing the door and my fingers are lifted. But I can sometimes see it near my cuticle line when my hand is over to the right and my fingers are lifted. This is that busy day where I got confused about my footage. At some point, I had just stopped filming, and for most shots, I had literally one take. So maybe we're not seeing my best work. I have picked out the Maroon Clownfish. I'm not certain he's orange enough. Apparently the ones near Sumatra are more brown. I love him so much. For the second shot, I caught some sun in a place I don't usually film, but it was what I had that day. I think you can see some of that deep reddish-brown base in the sun with the green shimmer shift. As I move around to the left, the shimmer gives over to teal, blue, and violet. I tried to linger in certain places so you could see those shifts. I picked out some glorious critters to match this one. First is the California red-legged frog. I think it fits with the slightly gross vibes of the polish. They do come in a variety of colors, but I'm looking specifically at the red-toned one. The Blyth's Paradise Flycatcher is another candidate for this polish. Some male birds have white coloration, but we're looking at the rufous morph. Today I learned that rufous literally means reddish-brown. I threw in another shot I don't normally do. This is just farther into the kitchen. The back door is to my right with its large window. And overhead are some halogen lights. I was really getting some good blues in that room, so I decided to include it. The shift moves from blue closer to the window and into teal and green with a shy violet as I move over to the left, and only the halogens are available as illumination. You aren't seeing the base distinctly here, but the shot does give you a good idea of how dark it is. I think it is much darker than Asterian's juice box from my previous video. After this video, we're going to look at my curated SpongeBob collection. I was experimenting with painting on my other nails, and we'll see how I feel about the results. And finally, a shot that is probably familiar. I'm over in the dining room with a window off to my right and incandescents to my left. Near the window, we are getting violet and green with a little blue. As I move over to the left and the incandescents, the shimmer almost looks like a silvery teal or aqua. I consider this quite a vampy color, and I'm absolutely loving it. It is everything I hoped for when I ordered it. Highly recommended as an ugly, weird, but also strangely beautiful polish. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so that I can carefully survey the backyard for a small, chipmunk-sized aqueduct that will only carry water the length of a hose, thus rendering it completely redundant. Please enjoy a clip of my squirrels doing their best snoot-only shots. The Blyth's Paradise Fly. Oh my God, this is a tongue twister.